17th meeting of the Development Review Board, this is about the minutes, was held in the Select Board's meeting room in the Municipal Center, 230 Main Street. The meeting was called to order at 7:02 by Chair Jim Valenti. Other board members present were Maya Hashagawa, Eric Annis, Catherine Turnus, the second, George Reed Savory, and alternate, hello, Dave Whittle. Mike Goodwin was, I can skip that, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll go the opening. Thank you. Like I said, I'm new to it. Okay, at the DRB, we hear application for land development in the town of Brattleboro and appeals of zoning administrators' decisions. Procedurally, the Development Review Board operates on the record. Broadly, this means that we take a clear record of testimony from the applicant and any interested parties and then issue a written decision with our findings. Applicants and members of the public should be aware that as we are on the record, this is your opportunity to comment on and provide evidence relating to an application. In the event of our decision is appealed to the environmental court, the court will not take or consider additional testimony at its hearing, but will look at the evidence from our hearings, the regulations, and determine if the evidence supports the findings and decision on this board. Only interested parties that participate in this proceeding may appeal a decision made by the board, so I strongly encourage all of you to speak up at this hearing. As we are on the record, we are going to ask that you affirm that your testimony will be truthful. So would all the applicants and anyone wishing to speak to the application please affirm the following. Anyone who wishes to speak, please stand and raise your right hand.
That's your right.
I hereby affirm that the evidence I give in the cause under consideration shall be the whole truth and nothing but the truth under the pains and penalties of perjury.
I do.
Applicants require a majority vote of the board to succeed. That is 4 out of 7. If you notice, we're a little shy of 7. So, need a majority of 4 votes. If we do not have a full board present to hear your application, then we will consider a request to continue your application to the next public meeting. After taking testimony, the board will close the public hearing and may vote on your application. The board will issue a written decision within 45 days of the close of the hearing. While we may vote on the application, it is a written decision that controls the timeline of the appeal. It should be noted that what's the TOB? Pardon me.
Oh, Town of Brattleboro.
Town of Brattleboro, thanks, is a party with an interest in land development applications. The town does not have a special status before this board. Documents provided to the board by the town planning department, town attorney, or other town departments will be considered in exactly the same way as information from the applicant and all other interested parties. Okay, first I need approval of the minutes of April 3rd.
I so move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Motion passed.
Oh, motion's passed, sorry. Okay,
I have to ask whether the meeting was warned.
oh, yes, sorry.
The meeting wasn't warned properly.
Okay. The first case tonight is 2017-27. George Malouf for Matthew and Adrienne Raptis. Do I need to read the whole?
No, you don't. So just an explanation, the Maloufs had an application to run a naturopathic, was described as a clinic on the warning. Mr. Malouf did not receive a letter which notified him of the hearing. And because of that, he didn't show up and was unable to answer questions from neighbors. Under state law, we have to give a warning, and it includes notifying the applicant as well as neighboring property owners. If a warning fails, the board has to make a determination of whether that failure had a material impact on the outcome of the hearing. In this case, the applicant feels that the description of it as a naturopathic practice was misleading because in fact, there is already an office for the practice, and this is just a supplementary office in the clinician's home. So the board should consider whether this is in fact a material impact on the outcome of the hearing. If so, then we'll rewarn it and it can be reheard.
Discussion.
I'd like to see more of an application, and some explanation of where his office is. Is it in Hingham? And he's gonna do this here, or does he have an office here in Brattleboro, or someplace in the area?
Sure. This isn't to approve the practice, this is just to determine whether the warning was a failure.
Oh, okay.
If the board makes that determination, it will be rewarned, and the applicant will come to answer questions and provide a more complete application.
So the applicant should have been warned and unfortunately was not.
That is correct.
Denied, yes.
Yeah.
I didn't actually know that there was an office in there at this time. I remember the neighbors were concerned about the fact that it was a naturopathic office with supplements and various things, that people would be coming and going, and were concerned about the traffic on the road, which makes us think that perhaps there's going to be, or expected to be, more traffic than there is. So I would say just because there was an office there before, I don't think that that this should just be an office. There's more to it than has been, I guess.
Yeah, I move that we ask to have it rewarned.
I'll second it.
Yeah, I mean, considering that's how it should have been done, and yes, I agree.
The public hasn't had a chance to comment on it.
Okay.
Any comments from the public?
Comment.
State your name, please.
I'm Arlene Hanson, I'm at 138 Orchard Street, across from the property in question. I didn't know there was an office there already. I think what they ran was more of a online business. So sure, you would have an office, but I don't think they had customers coming to and fro. So I would definitely want to rehear this, or hear the applicant explain a lot more. Thanks.
So we made a motion to rewarn the meeting.
Yes.
There's a second.
I'll second, yeah.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So the board actually has to make a finding that
Okay,
the failure to warn it had a material
Okay.
impact.
which is,
Yeah.
okay, so, the board made, that the Brattleboro Town Development Board finds that the April 3rd, 2017 hearing, 2017-27 warning did not conform to the requirements of Vermont Statute Title 24, Municipal and County Government, Chapter 117, Municipal and Regional Planning and Development, Subchapter 010, Appropriate Municipal Panels, Section 4464, Hearing and Notice Requirements. All those in favor?
Aye.
All righty.
Yeah.
Motion passes. Okay, now moving down.
5-0.
Is that
5-0.
5-0, yes. Okay, next on the agenda is 2017-38. Oh, actually, I might have forgotten one thing, conflicts. Did I?
Yeah.
I did forget
You
that.
can do it, Reverend.
It's okay.
Okay, like I said, so, does anyone have conflicts on 2017-38? Okay,
I mean,
on 2017-56, I guess I have to conflict, so I will
56 or 38?
recuse myself on that one.
Oh.
Okay. On 2017-38, Jim Westbrook and Elsie Smith, would you come forward to the table and state your plans.
We have put in an application to split 17.08 acres off of land owned by Bill Forchion and Serenity Smith Fortune. And we submitted the plot map showing that. And we propose to build a barn on it first, and then eventually, in a couple of years, build about 900 to 1,000 square foot house. But right now, we're trying to split it off from Bill and Serenity Fortune. It's a total of, I think they have a 146 acre parcel. It's basically the hillside in back of Discount Beverage, and if you're down on Route 9, that hill, Leader Lumber, Discount Beverage in there, that whole hillside in back, and our access is from Meadowbrook Road. And that's, Bill and Serenity have their house there.
Yeah, I got this, and I was trying to, the picture I have is rather small, and even with my magnifiers, I cannot read it. So, do you have a larger diagram of it?
I don't know what one you have there, but, this is a plot of the 17.08 acres.
Oh, here's Jim now. Beautiful.
So this is Meadowbrook Road coming up.
Actually, pardon me, could you stand over there, just so
Oh,
the
sure.
television can see it?
Oh,
Sorry, television.
this is Meadowbrook Road coming up the steep hill, and then Orchard Street goes off to the right. And you go, it's probably 150 feet, and this is the current driveway that goes to Bill and Serenity's house. And so the parcel that we had surveyed out goes along the current existing, all the houses, like when you're coming up Meadowbrook. If you remember, there's a huge old chicken coop that's there. That's like this one right here. And goes down, just comes up. It's kind of rectangular. Where we want to build the barn, can you see that there's a well here? I shouldn't say barn, because it's not gonna have animals, it's a storage shed. It would sit the 40 by 50 dwelling right there. Michael Marquis did perk tests for us a couple of years ago. The monitoring wells are still there. And where we propose to build our house eventually is down in here. So it's like I said, it's 17 acres. I think they have 100. It's either 146 acres or 149. I can't remember.
Does anybody want to see the big picture closer?
I'm good, thank you. Okay. Jim, slide yours down. They just introduced, showed us the plot. I think it'd be.
Okay. Sorry? What's that?
We moved the other one to the 19th.
Yeah, first,
The first
quickly
one,
go over
we moved to June 19th.
the first motion, in the first issue.
We haven't approved the minutes, is that
Yeah,
it?
We did, but we moved the one, the first case.
Oh, yeah.
to the 19th.
Right, yeah, that one I was able to figure out.
Oh, okay.
Okay, I'm sorry, folks, that I'm late. It's
No
no longer
worries.
unexpected to come back from Boston. I guess we should note that it's 7:15 and I'm James Blanky, I'm the chair, I'm not usually this late. I may have both other applications, but I don't have Westbrook and Smith's. Sorry, I'm just trying to get myself squared away here.
This came in,
What else?
that came in the mail today.
Okay, so apparently I'm a little slow here.
Not by much.
Okay, so can you tell us about the conservation restrictions first? Did you just do that?
No.
No.
Okay. Are there some conservation restrictions on the 12 acres?
The 17 acres, you mean?
Sure, yes.
I don't believe there are any on, when Bill and Serenity bought this land, and I think around 96, I think they partitioned 20 acres out
Mhm.
that the town said was able to be subdivided and developed at that time. I think that was all removed from any,
Do you know where the area that has conservation restrictions is on the bigger parcel?
it's basically the rest of the tract, which is approximately 129 acres.
Okay,
The part that goes down to the Whetstone Brook on the other side.
okay.
Have you ever been on this? There used to be a trail for years. People would ride their bicycles, their mountain bikes, down through the logging roads and come out in back of, kind of in back of American Trader in there.
See, I grew up in Marlboro, so I'm not that
There
trail
used to be,
far away.
yeah.
Okay,
But I think basically the whole thing is in the land trust. The rest of the land is all in the land trust, but when they bought this, they split out 20 acres to be, so that they could subdivide this.
And
okay.
that would have been in 2002 or 2003.
How are you gonna get from the parcel to the road?
Oh, there's their house is on here. Should I come show you?
If you put it up so we can all see, that'd be helpful. And I apologize for being a little stiff here. I'm gonna
Put it on the
some-
So, there is an existing, this is Meadowbrook Road,
Yeah,
coming up the hill, and it starts to level off here.
okay.
Their existing driveway goes here, and Bill and Serenity's house, which they built 10 years ago, is here. And there's an existing road, this is the old logging road, and there's roads in there right now.
Okay.
So,
And will the new parcel have a right of way so it doesn't become an island along whichever road that,
the right of way is the existing,
oh, and it's already deeded?
well, it's a proposed 20-foot right of way over existing drive.
Okay. Okay.
So your new parcel, if we agreed to let you subdivide this, abuts the conservation land, is that correct?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
conservation land is all back.
This would be the outline of the 17.08 acres,
So-
okay? And the rest of Bill and Serenity's land goes way down here, all the way down to the Whetstone, up in here, all the way up to the trailer park, I think, the trailer park land. And then the old Reisman farm is this tract right here. And then there's another dwelling, completely separate, Eric and, or Kevin and Aaron O'Keefe live here. And then
Valerie Stewart.
Valerie Stewart and John maybe live here. It's their little segment here, and then the Reisman farm is,
And the Reisman Farm is also in the trust.
Okay, so that's a 20-foot right of way, right?
it's a 20-foot right of way over the existing drive.
Is there any reason it couldn't become a 50-foot right of way?
I think the whole thing, I think Bill and Serenity's is 50 feet.
Yeah,
49.75 feet.
yeah. The reason I ask is because the ordinance seems like it requires a 50-foot right of way. Doesn't really need to go to 50.
This is what, I don't, when we proposed this to Bill and Serenity, they had a surveyor come in and do this.
Mhm.
This is his,
Okay.
is,
There's no reason for you to think that a 50-foot wouldn't work.
No,
I mean,
not.
yeah.
if there's is existing 50 feet, no, there's no,
Okay.
I mean, basically we'd be sharing the driveway. There are, Serenity and her are twins.
We've shared one of the driveways.
Is this gonna affect the use of any of those trails, what you're planning to do?
We encourage the use of the trails, actually.
Okay. Like, the house isn't gonna be in the middle of one?
No.
Is
The
it-
house would be approximately right here. This is why we put the, I don't know if on your thing you can see the monitoring wells for this
I
perk
think I
test.
see one here, too.
Yeah.
And our house would be right about in here is where eventually, and where the structure that we're proposing building right now is right here.
Will it be oriented where you can use solar?
Yes, oh yes. I mean, we definitely want solar,
Very well oriented.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a pretty steep slope, right?
yeah.
Well, the steep slope doesn't actually start until quite further out,
Oh,
but where we are, it's pretty flat, but there's
Yeah.
good sun.
And you'll leave the trails usable by the public?
Oh, gosh, yes.
Horses if they want?
Yeah, but the horses
Mountain
come up all
bikes,
the time.
The hunters.
There's 6 black bear out there currently from last year.
Really?
Yeah, there's some guys that live over in the trailer park and Bill and Serenity allow them to go hunting. I was just talking to them 2 weeks ago, and they said there've been 6 black bear there for almost a year now. It's plenty of
So
wildlife.
you're gonna be, from what you're showing me, you're gonna be in that upper portion right there. Do you have plans for the bottom portion, or is that going to stay pristine?
You mean down in this
Yeah.
area?
We currently have some pigs down in here right now.
Okay,
It's all fenced in for pigs. But other than that, nothing, no.
So agricultural use.
It's agricultural.
okay.
Well, that's all the questions I had. Only a couple dumb ones, which is pretty good.
So the only thing that you're proposing right now, that you want us to approve, is one, the subdivision.
Correct.
And are we approving the building of a barn?
That was
Yeah.
approved administratively.
It was
Yeah.
approved administratively, okay. So they'll have to come back when you build your house?
Yes, yeah, that's a couple of years. We've been working on doodling plans for some time now.
Saving our pennies.
Octagon versus, it's probably gonna be, we are thinking about 900 square feet total, is the house.
So, see, I had another, electricity.
Mhm.
Are you gonna put power back here?
Yes, yes. I have been in touch with Victor Johnson about putting a meter, that I don't know if you can see on yours, it says UG utility box, we're building Serenity's current boxes. We're gonna put our proposal is to put electrical back into there with a meter and then go down to where we wanna build the barn first with, to get power there. And then from there, we branch out and go down to the house, but definitely want solar is our goal.
You had said that the barn was gonna be more for storage than.
It's not animals,
It's not animals.
no animals at all.
Okay,
We don't want animals up close enough there,
okay.
yeah.
Other questions from the board? Are there any members of the public who came to speak about this application? Okay. Well, it seems to me that provided that there's a condition in there that the right-of-way be 50 feet, buildings be oriented for solar, and that the public be allowed to use the trails, we ought to have a motion to grant the application.
Yeah, but they said they can't do 50 feet, they have 49.5 feet.
You said you can't do 50 feet?
Well,
Well, it says 49.75.
Well, I think
On
we
the
can.
map.
You think so?
Let's round it up, yeah, that's good.
Okay,
that's what the current driveway is, I think.
I mean, that's 3 inches.
okay. I'm just going by you.
Yeah, no, think we can round to the foot if they're not doing it. So can I have a motion then?
So moved.
Second?
Second, all right, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? All right, thank you, again, I'm sorry I was late.
That's fine, that's
Thank
fine.
you very much.
Thank you for this. All right, the next application is the Winston Prouty Center. I think Chloe Learey is here? Chloe Learey is here.
And David Dunn.
Well, bring as many people up as you want to the table, that's fine. If you could just say who you are for the record before you start.
You shouldn't participate in this for some reason.
Well, you know how
Eric, did you note the conflict for the record at the beginning?
Yes.
No, I had forgotten, I did it after the
Okay, well,
fact,
we'll
so.
know it now.
I did it,
Oh, you did, all
Yeah.
right.
but it was a little late.
Okay, application 2017, 56.
I want to remind them that they need 4 out of 5.
Oh, that's right. We generally, the rules here are that you need 4 votes, no matter what, and we only have 5 people here. What we've done in situations like these is we start the hearing, and if there's a problem, we'll tell you, and you can say, okay, we want to try to get a full board together to see if we can get those votes. Hasn't been an issue yet. We've been trying to find some more alternates so that this doesn't happen as much. You can just ask to continue and not even start if you want. I doubt you want to do that. Nobody has, but that's an option we offer people. Or you can just say, let's throw the dice. But anyway, we can deal with this when it comes up, and we'll be flexible with you. We're not just gonna say, well, you started, so now you've got to take a vote. Anyway, please tell us about your project.
Thank you, Jim. Just for record, David Dunn, President of the Board of Trustees.
And I'm Chloe Lear, the executive director.
So somebody's gonna tell us about this project.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start with the project. As outlined in the master plan, this is the former Austin campus. The Austin school closed in September 2014, and Winston Prouty purchased the entire campus in January of 2016. The existing master plan referred to exclusively the Austin school and the Austin campus. So in looking at moving forward with the project, it became apparent that we needed to either amend or submit a new master plan. After discussions with the town, we felt it best to start with a new master plan that would state more specifically what we're hoping to do. The overall plan is to turn the majority of the campus into a condominium. There are several parcels which will be not included within the condominium because of the specific types of uses that could be associated with that. The master plan that is before you does not anticipate any current changes to the buildings. It does anticipate breaking off and doing some subdivision to assist to show the condominium, but we're not looking at any plans or changes to the existing buildings at this time. If you can look at the map that is up there, the largest parcel, the green parcel, is going to be common area for the condominium, as will the red parcel. Those will be the common areas. The parcels that will not be included within the condominium, but are included within the master plan, are the large blue parcel there, which we call as reserving that for possible future development, and the adjoining orange parcel, which is the former president's house. Those two parcels will be independent from the condominium. The remaining parcels will initially be part of the condominium. The large green area where including as subject to the conservation conditions that are put there. Within the master plan, we're stating that a minimum of 80 contiguous acres will be part of the, be subject to conservation restrictions. That area houses a network of trails and a pond. We have had conversations with the town about the fact that it may make sense both for the campus and possibly for surrounding areas to increase the water supply availability, either through possibly tapping into the town or possibly locating another water or pumping station there. So the conservation conditions allow that with town approval, we could site a facility there that would assist in providing additional water supply to the campus and also to other areas if depending on how development goes in that area with the town. The core campus will be composed of condominium units. The condominium units are going to be the outlines of the existing buildings. The buildings, if you're familiar with the campus, there's a large gym, which is Croker Hall. That will be one condominium unit. There are 2 dorms, 8 and 10 room dorms with that were for living facilities and had separate kitchens. Those will each be separate condominiums. Holton Hall, which was the main administrative area, that will be a separate condominium. And Vermont Hall will be a separate condominium. Currently, Winston Prouty is using the top floor of Vermont Hall for the Winston Prouty daycare and related community-based services. Holton Hall is currently fully leased up to a number of nonprofits and, as we refer to them, mission-driven, mission-based uses, some for-profit, some not-for-profit. The 2 parcels that are mustard and yellow on there, the mustard-colored parcel contains 5 seasonal cabins, and the hope is that High Five Adventure Learning, which is a nonprofit that has been on campus for some time, is considering purchasing and building their own separate new facility. They have in the past used a lot of the facilities on the main part of the campus, but with the increased use by Winston Prouty and the leasing up of Holton Hall, it's become evident that they may want their own separate facility. The yellow parcel, they may also be interested in acquiring the yellow parcel. The top part of that houses their ropes challenge course, and depending upon their fundraising availabilities, they will either be renting or purchasing that. But we consider them a long-time partner. The current uses of the other buildings, the 2 dorms are currently unoccupied. They are seasonally occupied for, I guess since Winston Prouty has owned it, nonprofits have, including Marlboro College, have rented those for intermittent periods of time. Croker Hall currently has 2 major tenants and 1 minor tenant. The major tenants are Inspire School for Autism and the Garland School, which is a Waldorf-oriented school. Also, NECA currently uses the gym until their new facility is being completed. And we have another nonprofit who has a small area there. The President's House is currently rented. That's rented to one of the tenants who rents a portion of Holton Hall. It's a for-profit. He works with a for-profit, but it's mission related. They do a lot of work with autistic children. They've expressed an interest also in one of the dorms. This subdivision, we're asking, within the master plan, we're asking for most, but not all of the uses that are permitted in the in this zoning area. There are only a few that are not included, such as cemetery, but we have also reserved as possible uses housing because we are not sure exactly how that is going to be used. The two purple lower parcels, the lighter purple is a lot on which Wheeler House, which was a dorm for, sometimes for students, sometimes for people who had graduated from Austin and were using that as housing until they could find other places. We've had a good interest in Brattleboro Housing Partnership of acquiring that as a teardown facility to build 26 units? 21 units. So we've anticipated that. That will be part of the condominium and the master plan. The darker purple, we separated that out as an additional lot. We believe they will also acquire that because that will give them a little bit more room for their facility and also for parking. There's a separate entrance off Maple Street for that, so they will be able to handle their own parking needs with respect to that.
I would just add that that's an idea, it's just in conversation.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that, I think we're trying to be flexible in the uses, knowing that our goal was to create a place that was a community resource and not knowing necessarily which nonprofits or mission-driven organizations would join us in the vision of our housing being one, but we could imagine others as well. So just to note that.
The only, and we're asking for waivers of the setbacks and the dimensional requirements. The only one that I was able to identify that was apparently not waivable was waivable with certain restrictions was with respect to the president's house, that the access to that had to be 50 feet wide unless the size of the lot was at least twice as required by the zoning regulations. The access to that is a two-way drive, but it is not quite 50 yards or 50 feet wide, and it would be impractical to make it bigger. It's on one side is a stone wall, on the other side it drops off. So we made sure that parcel was big enough.
Switchback, right?
Yes, the switchback, and that will be, that would not be part of the condominium, but we'll have a separate deeded right of way with respect to that.
I remember you coming here 8 or 9 months ago, and I'd appreciate if you just remind me, because I don't remember what you were doing then and where we came from.
Here, sorry.
A
sketch plan review.
Okay.
Those are the lines right there.
Yeah. At that point in time, the overall plan was about the same, except for the two purple lots.
Okay.
It was only the lighter purple lot that we were thinking of. But then when, because we were looking at maintaining that existing, the Wheeler house and having that rehabilitated, subsequent investigations and discussions in the community showed that that might not be practical. So we added the additional lot, and we, again, we might end up saving that house, but no one has come up with sufficient funds that makes it practical. It's a little bit crazy oriented because it was used more of as a dorm than separate individual housing facilities. The other things that were different were the turquoise and yellow and mustard were all one parcel, because that was our anticipation that we would look at that parcel for high five. And in discussions with them, they're not sure if they're gonna have to scale back on that. The other thing that I should say with respect to that turquoise parcel in the corner is that if an adjacent property owner wants to acquire that with access separate from the campus, then we would allow that to happen, and at least the condominium documents would allow that to happen. It would be out of the condominium, and then we would probably be discussing with the town whether we would look for an amendment to the master plan to carve that out of this master plan. And again, the blue parcel, we're reserving that for future development. That, I think, Jim, was something that we talked about at sketch review at the time. Other than that, I think that we had discussions about the outlines of the condominium units, and rather than including things outside of the building footprint, it was suggested that we stick with just the building footprints. That would be easier from a description standpoint, and also increase the common area available for use.
Thank you, that's very helpful.
Yeah.
Questions from the board? I don't really have any myself.
I've got a couple. Between the lots 2 and 3, if that's not a wetland, it's certainly a marshland in there.
The lower part of that?
Yes.
I don't think we've had any, or I know we haven't had any determinations as to whether that is or not. I think that we can certainly, before there's any building there, we would be coming in with separate things. The future ideas that we would require, even under this plan, would be if there was a tear down and a build on lots 2 and 3, someone would be coming in for that. We would anticipate that in the future there will likely be an increase in parking. We would come in for that. High 5, if they build, they would come in for that as well. But I'm not sure if it would be classified as wetlands, but the way it is grown up, it certainly has vegetation that could be consistent with wetlands. We just have to take a look and get a specific determination. That would be deferred until someone's actually gonna build on those lots.
I don't think they can change their footprint without coming back for site plan.
Okay.
Is that right?
Either administratively or before the board.
Yeah, but what we do tonight, not gonna give them free rein.
Well, there's a couple of things in here that do concern me a little bit. And that is that at this point, you want all conditional uses approved. And that's the sort of thing I'd feel more comfortable by letting the board at the time you have a concept for what you want to do, decide. And the same thing with height restrictions on buildings within the condominium complex.
At this point on the core campus, with the exception of Wheeler House, we're not looking at any changes, and we're not looking at any changes to Wheeler House until we would come in. So,
But are you
Jim
asking-
said we're not looking for changes in any footprint. We're not looking for changes in any structure at this point. And I felt when I reviewed the new land use regulations, that if we were gonna do a new master plan, we should list all the possible uses that we would have. And one of, for example, on the dorms, we've had a number of people kick the tires that include either residential or office or something associated with that. And we are currently using it as quasi-residential or temporary residential. So the intent is not to get a carte blanche at this point. But if there are concerns with some of the uses that we've suggested, we would, we'd be willing to pare them back if they're not inconsistent with what our current plans are.
Well, what I would like to see is when you have specifics on what you want to do, then look at the current uses. And the same with the height requirements that you would like to have waived at this point.
We're certainly fine with the height requirement, because the only thing that we would be doing with respect to height would be new construction, so that's not a problem. On the uses that we listed, as I go through them, we are currently using it congregate living. We're currently doing professional services, food service contractors, a disc golf course, camping, and there's a museum. So when I look at the uses that we would, that you would want to pare back, I'd be willing to look at those as long as we're consistent with what we're trying to do.
I think I saw a bank in here someplace.
There was a discussion at some point of a local financial institution renting a portion of one of the facilities for a processing center so that they could do that. So, and then that came to nothing. So the idea was that if because portions of the buildings will be rented out. And so we were trying to keep our rental options as broad as possible. But certainly if there are things that are concerns and uses that the board would think would be not compatible with giving us a wide open one, we could look at coming back for a later amendment to that. When I went through them, I took out only the ones that I knew we weren't going to use, left in the ones that we had tickles or thoughts from people about using. And we've had a lot of broad interest from nonprofits and mission-based for-profits, and our goal was not to limit those if we could.
I understand that, but I guess I wouldn't envision a motel as fitting in with the rest of it. So if you came in here with a motel, something like a hostel, I would understand. So that's why I would feel better about when you have something more solid coming forth with it. And that's just my perspective. This is a little different than anything I've thought of in terms of a PUD, and so I'm having to get this square in my mind. But I still think, that the town should have some way to oversee what ends up going in there.
So I don't have the land use restrictions or regulations in front of me, but I'm wondering if there's a way we can work on eliminating ones that are of concern to the board.
I thought I saw Brian with his hand up.
Yeah, just a couple of procedural issues. There was a time when the approvals for PUDs was quite narrow. Then the town went more towards master plans, and those did include a pretty extensive list of uses that seemed compatible with the overall purpose of the PUD. In this situation, it's a matter of reusing existing buildings, and if there are pre-approved uses, that means I can issue an administrative change of use permit, and people can get permits rapidly if they're responding to a rental market. So that can be a real use to PUDs, and it can be reasonable because it's making use of existing buildings and it's not having really large impacts beyond that. So unless something seems like it really just doesn't fit in with the character of the district, there can be a real benefit in just approving it.
Yeah, I was just reading over the campus PUDs, and this is a little bit outside of that from my perspective.
Is that the existing campus PUD? Oh, very, very much so. But the existing PUD said it will be used for the Austin School and any.
No, I mean the new regs.
Oh, okay.
I'm sorry.
And I was a bit surprised to see that the scope of the uses that were approved uses within a campus PUD. And if there's concerns, like specific concerns such as hotel, we can drop that, just, you know, because there really isn't any interest in doing anything like that, and that would be a concern for us as far as a compatible use. On the other hand, we would like to be able to use it for as broad as possible with the idea of congregate living, whether, especially on a temporary basis, because there is a need for that with various programs in town who have rented it from occasion for 1 week, 2 week, 3 week periods. And that's helped a number of nonprofits in squeezes. And we have these 2 dorms that are currently fitted out with beds and dressers and can be converted and worked with quickly. We'd like to continue to do that. But again, dropping hotel and motel is not a problem.
Are there other questions by members of the board?
In the master plan on page 7, under food service, there's a sentence that kind of, it says, accordingly, Winston Prouty seeks additional
Addition
or clarification of this use. What does that mean?
It was not clear to me what food services meant as a use in the regulations. Maybe I was not reading it fully or correctly, but we just want to confirm there is, Austin had a large kitchen, a very industrial kitchen, and we've had good success in working with a group, Vermont Dinners, that has used locally grown food and preparing that. And we also are looking for someone to take over as a major, or as a general tenant that we could then lease out, and we still would lease out to people who would use the facility as a kitchen. We've heard a number of people in town say that there is a need for this kind of facility. That hasn't bubbled to the surface yet any more than just Vermont Dinners, but it was really a question for, can we with food services be clarified that we can have an industrial kitchen that we can rent out on a weekly, daily, monthly, hourly basis. So that was the confusing sentence.
Further questions from the board? Are there any members of the public who'd like to speak to this application?
Sure.
You could just identify yourself.
I'm Mary Casey and live across from Winston Prouty. We were up at their open house. Nice not to have a derelict building. Little concerned about the relationship, I think I share the board members' concern, between the uses. I didn't realize how many uses until taking a look at it. And uses of a building, even if you don't build anything in them, affect your traffic, your trucking, everything else. If I go from an elementary school to a daycare center, I've increased my traffic. I'm not saying your traffic is too much now. I think it's being managed. But it is more if you add up, if you use like the traffic, the IT, the traffic engineering, traffic estimates, it's more than the last permit for the Austin, the last state permit, if you add up those uses. Now I'm hearing about high-density residential at the Wheeler lot with separate access. Daycares are tough to design around. I think you probably noticed you've got 2 peak hour issues and you're almost backed up to the Wheeler house entrance right now. So if you add high density, in your peak morning hour, you actually keep me on schedule, because I know if the traffic is extended in front of my house, that it's 8:22 in the morning. Your people are very prompt. If you have high density residential, 21 units at the Wheeler House, you're going to have a traffic issue for yourself as well, because it's not just construction, it's use. And I was wondering, with the first question, how you estimated, I tried to work through with the ITE, the traffic engineering estimates per use, how you estimated your traffic when you said there was no increase in traffic, and whether you mean with the proposed uses, there's no increase. I'm not saying you can't increase traffic, but where you stand on that. And the second issue was for a campus, right now the Wheeler House, on the Wheeler House, transitional housing related to the Austin, the PB permit on it, the Act 250 limits it to 11 beds. There shall be no more than 11 beds in that house. If you do 21 housing units, it depends on the number of people in those that housing unit. The coefficient for traffic for congregate living is marginal. Same for, I think you're thinking about elderly housing, really low coefficient. When you change the use, that coefficient goes up. So I was wondering about the traffic and what you use to come up with your figures. I'm looking at the uses that were approved more in the state permits, because that was what was more readily available. And the second issue for your campus, I was thinking of the campus in the land use regs as being something that's related with a similar purpose. And I thought, glancing through before we came, we've got an architect, some lawyers. When I read the application, you have, I knew the school, the daycare, and the different types of school, congregate living, all sort of human services. We have a frozen food, or at least that's the way they're registered with the Secretary of State, a frozen food manufacturer. We've got the things that sort of went along with the Austin more. The Association for the Blind, I think, is up there. There's a variety of uses, and I didn't quite understand how you were defining the similar or like uses. I saw the word mission, but I don't know what that is, because that will affect, for the board to be able to know, it's not just the building, but how is that impacting in the area?
We did not do a separate traffic study at this point. To the extent that there are additional buildings, additional structures, for example, the multi...
I'm not talking about a traffic study, I know those are a pain in the neck. I'm talking about just using your IT estimates. All those, the traffic engineers have already done your traffic estimates by use. And estimate, if I'm permitting a daycare center, I can just say, okay, it's so many trips per 1,000 or so many per student.
Okay. I don't believe we did that analysis. We looked at how things have impacted. It's difficult to compare timing, because I don't think we have a clear understanding of what the peak traffic was at Austin, because that peak was some time ago. Even Wheeler House has been partially empty for quite some time. Any additional building that's going to require additional, it's going to result in additional traffic, will have to stand on its own. And Winston Prouty, as the current owner, is we're looking to lease out existing buildings that for the various uses. We're not looking to do any additional development. We would be selling parcels, and then the parcel owners would have the obligation to come in here and get additional permits for that. On the mission driven, admittedly, that's a loose phrase because it is in some ways a loose situation. For example,
No, we can't.
I'll be honest,
Yeah.
the Brattleboro Hearing Center, or the Brattleboro Hearing, they're for-profit.
Yeah.
Should we exclude them? But no, because there's a whole group of people who came in and used that facility at that place. There were existing audio labs that they could move back into. They're for-profit, and we felt that was mission-driven. The Vermont Association for the Blind and Visually Impaired, they're a nonprofit, relatively easy to do that. Attorneys, yes, we have at least two attorney who spends probably 2/3 of her time working as a mediator for family court things. And that seemed like a good fit. So there is some leeway in that. Would it be wonderful to be able to have this be totally a not-for-profit campus? It would be wonderful. There is a need for that but we're trying to get compatible uses that work together. So it is a mismatch. It is a loose statement with respect to what we're doing, and but at the core of it, we're trying to figure out what works with Winston Prouty maintaining a safe and secure and compatible environment for its children and its families and its clients. And so I think that more than anything else is driving it. Plus, providing services to where we see that works for the community, places where people can land to do things. I don't know if that answers your question.
You may have misunderstood. I'm very supportive of the Winston Prouty succeeding up there.
Can you just, because people are watching this on TV, they don't know what's going on.
I'm very supportive of the Winston Prouty being successful up there. The concern of having a large derelict building across from my house was not pleasant. I know you need flexibility. I kind of like the idea of bringing some for-profits into town. Brattleboro, as you may be aware, has a very large nonprofit, and we could use a couple of property tax bucks.
Can I ask you a quick question? Is traffic the primary issue that you're concerned about?
I'm a little concerned with this open and flexible of a concept. It's very difficult, once they start selling, to then bring it back as the uses expand. For instance, this winter, it's not just traffic issues. I don't think they've overloaded it, and I think they've got a little bit more they can do without overloading it. But for instance, there was a function up there this winter, and all the overflow parking ended up on Maple Street. And there was a car accident. It was horrible weather. Maybe there'd be a car accident without them. They don't do those functions that often. But if I was typically, I do a land use permitting, and I'm not talking about traffic studies, but there's often this idea that if I don't change the shape of a building and I just use that building, that if I change the use, I'm not having a large impact on something I may not have thought through. And if you buy the condominium, and I've read the declarations, once somebody buys that, no matter how good your declarations are, permits and what you approve runs with the land. And I'm afraid that there can be problems down the road. I didn't realize with those two entrances, the Wheeler House and Winston Prouty's entrance are pretty close for the amount of traffic. If you just use the estimates, I think I went through the 9th edition of the ITE estimates, not a traffic study. If I turned my entire house into a daycare center, I increased the peak estimated evening hours by 40 vehicle trips.
Let me ask this a better way.
They're using light manufacturing and trucking and that. I just wanted to know that it had been considered.
Totally understand. Are there other issues you're worried about if there's this level of flexibility apart from traffic?
I think that some of the uses where you have a common area, I think that some of the uses, I think there may be trouble on the campus between some of the uses. And it's tough when you have non-compatible, the declarations are set up for a mixed-use residential, mixed-use non-residential, including, it has to do, I assume, with about 5 years ago, the common interest community laws changed. So the residential uses up there, especially with the Wheeler House, will not have the protections of a residential common use community. And usually that would apply to a high-density residential.
Thank you. Do you want to respond to that? You don't have to. I'm just-
No, I'll respond to the last one because it is a bit of a twist around within the Uniform Common Ownership Interest Act as amended. The idea is that you can have residential and non-residential uses, but your residential uses can't, as a subset, be a condominium type structure. The idea was if you're going to have a condominium type residential structure, you can't avoid some of the problems that you might have with the Common Ownership Interest Act by layering on top of that a mixed use that's non-residential. So what that means is that if there is a residential development within the Wheeler House parcels, the two purple parcels, they cannot be condominium type uses, condominium type ownerships. They would be just residential rental type ownerships. That was the intent of doing it, putting it that way within the condominium declarations. I'm trying to think of any other. No, I think that's fine. I just wanted to, because that is a relatively technical aspect of you, Kyle.
Are there any other members of the public who wish to speak to the application?
Yeah, Michael April, I live across the street as well. I was just wondering, with all this stuff, first of all, this entire property is under Act 250, is it not?
Yes.
So you're going to have, any of this stuff is going to have to go through the state completely as far as any sort of application?
Yes, both our current application and any future building, yes.
Okay. And secondly, I guess I'm once again a little concerned about the looseness of the application as far as you had said, you know, we're asking for anything and everything. We're asking for approval of anything and everything that might possibly come down the road that we might be able to shove in there. That is the way I read it, I guess. There was like for instance, the Wheeler House. There was like a laundry list as long as your arm as far as what might happen to that area. And with it being not being sold off, you don't have the benefit of when you if and when you do go through and do your 21 units, you don't have the benefit of any sort of density restrictions having to do with the lot that it's actually sitting on. That's how it sounds like, the way you're looking at it. And I guess in the application, or I believe you said that there was no difference in traffic, and I guess I would definitely have to, it isn't difficult to even say, the current uses of the property as compared to what it used to be used as, that there's a lot more traffic than there used to be. And I know the board's always interested in making sure that they don't create intersections that are dangerous. I know that, we're in the process of fixing intersections that we've allowed that have become problems through town. And, I think that the traffic, some interest or looking at the effects of traffic especially with all of the uses that you might possibly put in there, are going to, you've got a big number.
I think I think there are several different issues, but one of the things I'm thinking is we inherited lots of those tenants as well. So, and there was already an early learning program on site. So while our program is larger than Little Arrows was, the number of our staff might be a few more, but to David's point, I'm not sure I know when the campus was at full peak and running, how our traffic compares to that.
I know, and that's what I'm saying.
I think
it's not addressed.
I would acknowledge that in terms of future development, the campus is, and again, it's hard to imagine, I hear what you're saying, asking for flexibility to make it sort of with our vision of having it be a community resource that stays vibrant means, right, it's sort of we aren't gonna invite anybody on campus that is not gonna fit with our, in terms of our vision of what's gonna work. And we're getting full.
Well, I've
think
heard some construction going on up there. Sounds like you're increasing the parking up there currently.
Just taking out some spaces that were not being well used. But I think in terms of like the new construction and new development, I think is a good question in terms of traffic. And certainly people on campus will tell you it's nice to have the campus be alive again, and it can be hard to find parking some days.
Absolutely, no.
I'm just acknowledging sort of the mix of where we are.
I'm just saying,
knowing.
let's walk into this with our eyes open and not say, oh my God.
No, I appreciate that. I hear you being supportive and having good questions, for sure.
So, I would note one thing is, again, I'm not there all the time. My guess is that there is increased traffic on some weekends, Saturday nights, Friday nights, Sunday afternoons. When was the?
8:22 a.m. And it's not that you're overloaded.
I'll ask this question, when was the traffic accident?
There's actually been 3, and they haven't
When was
been
the traffic
serious.
accidents that you referred to?
Was on I'm sorry. The traffic accident was on whatever that function was late this winter. That was a special function that was up there, and there was a lot of people.
Late winter,
You know what that was,
you probably
Aaron?
know what it was.
I'm trying to remember the name of it. It
The
was
weekend.
And people should come across the street to get
the
help when
follow-on
they
to
have
the
a
march.
traffic accident. That's the only reason I get to know about them. He needed a shovel.
Okay. Well.
And then the other was in the morning.
I'm
And the
sorry,
third
I'm sorry to
one-
interrupt. We don't need to talk about individual traffic
Okay.
accidents, and I don't wanna cut you off, but there may be
That's
people in the
fine.
public who haven't gotten
I
to
was
speak.
just answering.
I totally understand.
And I do want to make one point about the the broad number of uses. As I read the land use regulations, we're submitting a master plan. The master plan says, this is what could happen at this campus. So if there is any use that we would anticipate now or in the future, we put it in the master plan. If not, we have to come in and amend the master plan. That is different than adding or subtracting uses as they go. If there is a way that we can be responsive, through administrative planning, be responsive to with respect to what we need, that's great. But, you know, we get requests for short-term space, mostly with respect to the dorms, that we fill quickly. And as I said, if there are things that give the board or others issues that are, for instance, hotel or motel, we can take that one off the board. The issue was, would a hostel fit in that? With hostel is separate. So I want to just say that we're open to a way to do it, but my understanding was when you file a master plan, you put everything that you think is going to be in there, otherwise you have to come in with a new amendment to the master plan. Sorry.
Okay.
I was just looking at things that you might think about eliminating, because I'm not sure. It looks as if your mission is centered around human services,
That's a fair statement.
okay? I'm not sure how a bank or information services or data processing fits in. I'm not sure how a bed and breakfast fits in. I'm not sure how the motel or hotel fits in.
We don't have any problems with dropping those. As I say, the only one that was active under consideration was the data processing center associated with a potential client. Again, there will be data processing. We're taking steps to increase and expand the internet availability so that we can have companies that rely on that heavily as it's coming in, service providers. But the things that you mentioned, they aren't current concerns of ours.
And I would just offer, there are nonprofits doing human service work who might have need for back-end office functionality not in their space. You know, a big, if HRS needed to move some of their technical people from their Fairview office to a nearby location, I want to be able to do that. So while it might say banking, fine, but I wouldn't want to limit to administrative functions, if that makes sense. And I think when I think of like hotel, motel, bed and breakfast, I honestly had the same reaction, like, why should we put these things in here? But to David's point, and maybe it's in leaving it flexible, can I imagine somebody, maybe Wheeler House could be rehabilitated to a lovely bed and breakfast, I don't know. And maybe it's a bed and breakfast that services certain people that feel like it's mission driven, or bed and breakfast or a hostel, So I think I sort of am thinking about, like, we're not gonna put a quality in, not on my watch anyway, I don't know what you're thinking, but, so if there's a way to leave language that makes people feel more comfortable about how it might fit into this vision of mission-driven, nonprofit, organizations.
Well, I
For
think
sure.
if you sold off the Wheeler House property, then whoever
Right.
buys it can come in and say, I wanna make a bed and breakfast there. And then we can have a
Absolutely, that's-
discussion
yeah.
about
And that's,
traffic or whatever.
Right. So for instance, one of the things Winston Prouty has talked about is how to become a center of excellence for early childhood educators. And if we wanted to have some sort of residential program around that, at a location like Wheeler House that was rehabilitated, it's not a bed and breakfast, but these are those kind of creative ideas are what I think spark us wanting to leave it broad, because we don't know, and I hear what you're saying, like, well, as you know, come in, but, sort of balancing if there are specific ways to state those things in the master plan that leave it flexible without making people uncomfortable, that certainly makes sense to me. So-
one thing that we could do is I would suggest, and I don't know if this fits in with the land use regulations, is that those, for instance, those ones that you listed there, is look at those as I guess, conditional uses so that they would still be available, but we would have to come in and get approval from the DRB before we went with one of those uses. That would be, if that works, again, within the structure. And one other thing that we have been understanding is that we're really the first PUD under the new land use regulations. And our desire is not to create a precedential situation that makes it difficult for the town when they look at the next things. So if you look at the regulations and it makes sense that you can create a conditional use of those certain things that are, for instance, the ones that you just said, that would be totally acceptable to us.
I just wanna make sure that there's nobody else in the public who hasn't gotten a chance to speak, no? Okay, sorry.
I was looking at the smaller map that we have here, broken out to the Wheeler House, which apparently sits on 1.5 acres. Then next to it, there's a 1.3 acres, and then 15. Now, the 15 acres is where all the other buildings are already situated. And then there's the 6.8 acres, which is the seasonal camp buildings. So which of these which of these would you be selling off? Would you be offering for somebody to build? Would it be the 1.5 and the 1.3 and the 6.8, or that's my question.
Yes. Am I right that the 15 acres is the common area? Yeah.
It seems to be.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
this is all
15
common,
acres.
these would be for sale.
Okay.
Everything that's a unit would be for sale.
Yeah, the 15 acres is common area to use on all the campus. And then the green larger parcel is also common
Right.
acres, but that's where the conservation restrictions were.
Right, where does the camping thing sit in on that colored map there? Because I don't, the seasonal camping buildings.
Oh, that's the mustard colored one.
That's the mustard
That's
one.
right here.
Okay.
Yeah.
You had also indicated that you were thinking of selling off number 11 there too.
Yeah, we left that, again, originally this was all, we thought high five, I want the whole thing. That, they do not, at this point, want the whole thing. So we were trying to leave space for if something else could happen here, either for an adjacent property owner. There's actually, it's not that far to go further than Route 5. It just felt like a place to leave some flexibility for, again, there's nothing concrete about that. And it could eventually not be part of the condominium association, sort of similar to that one, so.
Further questions by members of the board? I suggest we have a deliberative session. About a motion.
I move that we go into
I
executive
second.
session.
Okay,
Yeah.
any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll probably be 10 minutes. Come back on the record. Okay, folks, it is just past 8:45, we're back on the record. We went into deliberative session for 10 or 15 minutes, and the board concluded unanimously that the suggestion of Attorney Dunn to have some of these uses be conditional is the most efficient way to deal with the concerns. The specific uses that we're gonna request, the proposed or be drafted for with that language would be bank, motel, then breakfast. The board also concluded that the suggestion in the proposed master plan to use the specialized residential structures condition as a permitted use was agreeable. And our hope would be that allow the use of dormitories to support programming without having to deal with the motel hostel conundrum, even though that will remain a conditional use.
Question, Jim. You said motel but not hotel. I would assume that you'd also put hotel in there as a conditional.
Which is the defined term, motel or hotel? I always use the wrong one. It's
We're fine with both of
the
them.
same
being
thing. I'm
conditional.
talking about one thing, which is a place
Transit
without a written lease agreement where you can stay night to night,
Yeah.
basically. That's gonna be a conditional use. But what we're gonna say specifically in the order is that the other specialized residential structures can be used if you want to use the dormitories to support programming, which conceivably could be similar in character to a motel. It's just we wouldn't have something like a motel operating there unless you came here as a conditional use. If that was gonna be the permanent use of some structure, or a hostel, whatever. Whether it's the hostel or whether the day's in, it would come back as if it's a conditional use. But you could still use the dormitories for some support that was overnight staying on short notice.
Thank you.
That's what we're trying to do. We also, in section 4, want to take out the waiver for the height restriction, the all-purpose, noting that all the buildings are grandfathered, and that future campus development would be undertaken under section 354, and that you'd be coming back for that anyway, but the board just wanted to be clear that we're not having a free-for-all on height in the future. Because we're doing this in a novel fashion, the suggestion would be that we continue this hearing. Mr. Bannon would write up a proposed order that you can review to see how we do this and submit your own comments. And this will be a publicly warned hearing. The same members of the public can see the documents that we're referring to and come back and comment on them as well. And the goal here is to accommodate the need for flexibility while also avoiding collateral consequences to the community. So if we could have a motion to draft the proposed order, this is not accepting the application, but drafting the proposed order with the provisions I've just discussed, and continue the hearing so that the applicant and the public can review the proposed order. Let's do that.
So moved.
Second?
Okay, is there any further discussion? If you have questions, if I'm not clear.
The only question is, so we'd be looking at trying to continue that to the June date?
June 19th?
Yep.
Okay, so any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much.
Eric, you can come back and make a motion to adjourn.
Oh, yeah, right here.
Just when you think you're out, we pull you back in.
That's right. Yeah, you can't reduce yourself.
Thank you for the beautiful.
One quick matter before we vote on that. Right, our annual meeting is July 8th.
Usually out working on the house.
Yes, our organization is July.
It's July,
My
okay.
colors were a little weird.
Is there any chance we could try to do a training on the July meeting and then I'll bring everybody out afterwards?
What type of training?
guys.
What do we do?
Well, we were talking in the office that it would be kind of fun for the DRB and the design committee to see if we could get a historic preservation specialist out.
That would be great.
That'd be good.
Maybe do a walking tour of the district.
Yeah.
See if we can do that in July and I'll, you know, totally voluntary, of course. I don't know if everybody, I don't know if you've been on here for a year. Every year I offer to take anybody who, well, my predecessor, my predecessor's predecessor. The chair is responsible for buying around for the DRB and we go out afterwards.
Oh.
That's in July?
That's in July.
Oh, goody.
I buy Cokes, I buy beers.
I'll be able to drink alcohol by then.
When is it? Okay.
We're still in the public record. You can watch on DCTV later.
I was gonna say, I don't remember being invited last year. Or maybe it was.
Did we miss it last year?
I think we did.
Yeah.
Was
The
it-
last time we did it was.
Because I'm cheap.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so you have to buy two.
We should do a river tour.
There you go.
Can we do that?
I don't care. That'd be great.
That would be
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
What's that?
Eric will take us out on the boat.
Cool.
Would you really do that?
Yeah, as long as it's still daylight out. I don't mind nighttime either, as long as there's no junk in the river.
Well,
Depends
okay,
what size boat you have.
big enough.
Oh,
Oh, I don't know.
It was rated for 40
Okay, good.
So,
as a
so
lifeboat,
James,
but
you're
that was
gonna
like this.
apply to continue, right?
What's that? Oh, yes.
You don't,
I'm not planning to leave,
okay, good.
as long as my health holds up, yeah.
So July, we are what
Because I
day?
think you expire.
Is that?
Well, no, I don't
Is that
want to
open?
expire.
That's what I mean.
I don't blame
You
you.
have to tell the select board that you want.
It'd be nice
Okay, so that's
for
when we
my
want to
life
do it.
insurance, but,
Nah.
all right, well,
Good issue.
having that in mind, let's, that was the discussion on the motion to adjourn, so all those in favor? Any opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.